Good day, everyone. Thank you sincerely for being here. It is truly an honor to speak with all of you about one of the most transformative and strategically important evolutions happening in cybersecurity today: the rise of artificial intelligence and the cyber threat intelligence and modern security operations. As you know, my name is Andria Delia. I'm a cyber threat intelligence and digital forensic expert with extensive experience in ransomware mitigation, advanced digital investigations, cyber intelligence operation, incident response, and forensic analysis. Over the years, my work has focused on understanding sophisticated threat actors, investigating complex cyber incidences, and analyzing adversarial behavior, and helping organizations navigate some of the most challenging operational and strategic cybersecurity realities facing enterprises today. I've worked across areas involving cyber threat intelligence, ransomware operations, AI-driven security, digital trust, telecommunication security and critical infrastructure, incident response, advanced forensic investigations, and operational cyber resilience. Over the next session, we'll explore the evolution of the field. So we can switch slides now. How AI enhances cyber threat intelligence, the critical human in the loop balance, and the new risks we face, practical ways of operationalizing these capabilities. I'll share real-world examples and advanced strategic wisdom you can apply right away. So one thing that has become increasingly clear is that we no longer are defending against human speed threats. Attackers today leverage artificial intelligence, automation, deepfake technology, machine learning, scalable phishing ecosystems, social engineering at industrial scale, and increasingly sophisticated cyber criminal supply chains. At the same time, organizations are drowning in alerts, telemetry, threat intelligence feed, cloud events, identity activity, SaaS complexity, API traffic, and operational overload. The cybersecurity industry is undergoing a complete paradigm shift. Traditional reactive security models are no longer sufficient. Organizations can no longer afford to wait for compromise before responding. We are moving towards a predictive, intelligence-driven security. And this is where AI-enhanced cyber threat intelligence becomes transformational. So if we switch slides now. So before we go deeper into AI-driven CTI, I want to frame the broader strategic reality organizations face globally. So cybersecurity is no longer simply a technical issue. It is how we directly tie it to economic stability, national security, supply chain continuity, healthcare delivery, telecommunication integrity, financial confidence, public trust, and democratic resilience. Modern society depends almost entirely on digital infrastructure. Hospitals, telecommunication, energy systems, transportation, banking, government operations. When these systems fail, operational disruption becomes societal disruptions. Attackers understand this extremely well. Cyber attacks today are not simply about stealing data anymore. Increasingly, they are about operational disruption, extortion, psychological pressure, strategic destabilization, influence, and erosion of trust. This is one of the reasons AI has become so essential. Organizations cannot defend modern digital ecosystem at human speed alone. So to understand where cybersecurity is heading, we first need to understand how cyber threat intelligence evolved. So this, to understand this, we have it on our screen. It begins in the 1990s. So in the 1990s and early 2000s, security operations were heavily manual. Antiviruses relied primarily on signatures. Analysts manually collected indicators. Threat visibility was limited, and attacks moved more slowly. But the internet transformed everything. As global connectivity expanded, attackers became faster, more organized, financially motivated, operationally mature, and increasingly state-sponsored. Organizations responded by developing SIEM platforms, threat hunting, endpoint detection and response, behavior analytics, large-scale telemetry collection, and intelligence sharing frameworks. But eventually, scale overwhelmed human teams. Modern organizations generate millions of logs, massive endpoint telemetry, massive identity events, cloud infrastructure activity, threat feeds, API data, SaaS events, and dark web intelligence. No human team alone can process this effectively. This is why artificial intelligence became operationally essential. Modern CTI is no longer simply about collecting indicators of compromise. It's about understanding adversary behavior, predicting attacker intent, mapping operational risk, supporting executive level decision making, and enabling proactive defense. So really what cyber threat intelligence has become is the process of collecting, analyzing, and disseminating information about current and emerging threats. It has really evolved into something very efficient. So this is why it increased in scale and speed. So we can go to the next slide. One of the most important strategic evolutions in cybersecurity is the professionalization of cyber criminal ecosystems. Historically, many people imagine hackers as isolated individuals. That image is now outdated. Today's cybercrime ecosystem resembles a mature underground economy. Threat actors specialize in distinct operational functions. Initial access brokers, which I often mention in my ransomware talks, malware developers, credential traffickers, infrastructure providers, social engineering specialists, ransomware operators, data brokers, and money laundering networks. This specialization dramatically increased attacker efficiency throughout the years. Many ransomware groups now operate like legitimate corporations. They maintain affiliate programs, customer support portals, negotiation teams, profit-sharing systems, public leak sites, and operational performance metrics. Some even issue public statement after attacks. This demonstrates how operationally mature cybercrime has become. So the barrier to entry has also decreased dramatically. Threat actors no longer need advanced coding capabilities. They can purchase malware kits, AI phishing tools, credential database, infrastructure access, and ransomware services. This industrialization is one of the defining cybersecurity challenges of our era. So as we AI and CTI evolution went from reactive to predictive. It has now done a predictive shift where we anticipate needs, not just react to them. And an important factor in balancing all this is human intuition plus machine precision, which will also have risks where ethical guardrails are essential. So now if we pass to the next slide. Artificial intelligence fundamentally transforms how cyber threat intelligence operates. Modern AI-enhanced CTI platform continuously ingest from different endpoints, networks, firewalls, cloud systems, identity providers, threat feeds, malware sandboxes, dark web intelligence, geopolitical intelligence sources, and operational telemetry. Machine learning models analyze these patterns at scale impossible for humans alone. Natural language processing can read threat reports, parse hacker forums, analyze leaked data, detect emerging campaigns, summarize intelligence automatically, and prioritize operational risk. One of AI's greatest strengths is correlation of all these factors. Sophisticated attacks often appear harmless when viewed individually. For example, we have suspicious login, geographic inconsistencies, unusual PowerShell execution, and minor DNS anomalies, credential drift, and endpoint behavioral changes. Individually, these may seem insignificant, but together, they may reveal an active intrusion. AI does not simply automate, it amplifies visibility. And this is why when we take AI and the human in the loop, that's where you have a winning combination. AI is a powerful amplifier, not a replacement for humans. So the most effective model is human in the loop. AI excels at scale and speed, processing millions of events per second. Human brings context, business understanding, ethical judgment, and creativity and accountability. So if we take a real-world example where during the MGM Resorts attack, AI flagged suspicious activity early, but human analysts understood the business context and made nuanced decisions that limited the damage. So the strongest defense is augmented intelligence, human wisdom guiding powerful technology. So if we pass to the next slide. I'd like to now discuss operational reality inside the SOC centers. So one of our greatest problems in SOC teams that face today is scale. Modern enterprises, like I mentioned, millions of alerts, endpoint telemetry, identity events, all of that. Analysts are often overwhelmed. This creates alert fatigue, burnout, delayed detection, missed indicators, and operational inefficiencies. And staffing retention issues. So AI helps organizations prioritize those alerts, reduce false positive, correlate weak signals, summarize these incidences, and automate repetitive tasks, and improve operational visibility. But operational maturity is critical. Organizations that deploy AI without governance or workflow integration often creates additional complexity instead of reducing it. So if we speak a little bit about some real-world cases, I often like to speak about the Change Healthcare. So one of the defining cyber incidents demonstrating the importance of predictive intelligence was the Change Healthcare ransomware attack. This attack severely disrupted healthcare operations across the United States and highlighted how interconnected and fragile modern digital ecosystems have become. Attackers reportedly leveraged stolen credentials and weak identity protections to infiltrate systems before deploying ransomware. The consequences were enormous. Nationwide pharmacies disruptions, delayed medical claims, financial instability, operational paralysis, and reputational damage and healthcare service disruption. So what makes this incident strategically important is not simply the ransomware deployment itself. It demonstrated the dangers of delayed detection, the importance of identity-centric security, and the risk of lateral movement, and how critical infrastructure organizations have become major geopolitical and economic targets. One compromised credential can now create nationwide operational consequences. So if we go back to also another real-world case that I mentioned, the MGM Resorts attack, it became one of the most widely discussed example of modern social engineering combined with operational cyber intrusion. Attackers reportedly leveraged help desk manipulation and identity verification weaknesses to gain privileged access. Importantly, this attack did not necessarily rely on sophisticated zero-day exploits. Instead, attackers exploited human trust, organizational complexity, weak operational controls, and identity systems. The operational impact included hotel outages, reservation failures, digital key disruption, casino operation issues, slot machine failures, and significant financial loss. This demonstrates a critical truth. Cybersecurity today is increasingly about identity and trust, not simply malware. So traditional cybersecurity waits for compromise. This is why predictive security attempts to identify attackers' intent before operational damages occur. So in operationalizing AI for CTI, where you assess, integrate, measure, it trains, it measures, and it ingests. So you can have your SIEM, SOAR, and TIP. This includes detecting reconnaissance behavior, credential abuse, lateral movement preparation, infrastructure staging, command and control activity, and behavior anomalies. Modern ransomware attacks can escalate from initial compromise to encryption within hours. These threat actors can also be within your system, moving traversely through files for months. Organizations no longer have the luxury of delayed response. Prediction is becoming one of the defining competitive advantages in cybersecurity. This is why going back to the human in the loop adds another element to faster detection. There is enormous excitement around AI right now, but there's also a dangerous overconfidence, because AI inherits bias, context limitations, incomplete data, false assumptions, and model drift. AI can identify anomalies, but humans understand consequence. For example, an AI model may detect unusual credential usage, but a human analyst may recognize executive travel, a sensitive merger, a geopolitical event, a legal dispute, or operational nuance. Humans provide ethics, strategic judgment, context, creativity, intuition, and like I had mentioned, accountability. So the future is not human versus AI. The future is human plus AI. So we can move to the next slide. So as we speak and transition about reactive defense versus predictive intelligence, we have to look at our threats. Nation-state cyber operations are evolving rapidly. Cyber operations are now directly integrated into geopolitical conflicts, intelligence gatherings, economic warfare, strategic destabilization, information operations, and influence campaigns. Nation-state groups increasingly target telecommunication, financial institutions, healthcare, government systems, transportation, energy infrastructure, and critical national infrastructure. At the same time, deepfake technology and AI-generated misinformation are reshaping trust itself. Attackers can now generate executive impersonations, as we saw many attacks like that, synthetic voice messages, fake video conferences, AI-generated propaganda, and highly realistic misinformation campaigns. This transforms cybersecurity into a human trust crisis, not simply a technical challenge. For example, in 2025, attackers used AI-generated deepfake video and voice to impersonate a CFO in Hong Kong, stealing $25 million. North Korean groups use AI for realistic social engineering and passing technical interviews. Research shows how tiny invisible changes can fool AI security models. This is an asymmetric arms race. So defenders have more data and can deploy AI at enterprise scale, but attackers only need one success. So strong governance, continuous red teaming is really important within your organization, because often one issue that deserves serious attention is AI hallucination and decision reliability. AI systems can generate incorrect conclusions, false correlations, misleading prioritization, inaccurate summaries, or fabricated information. In cybersecurity operation, these errors can become dangerous. This is why explainability and human oversight are essential. Organizations increasingly require governance framework, auditability, human review, ethical controls, and operational accountability. Frameworks such as NIST, ISO, MITRE Atlas, and the United EU AI Act provide foundational guidance. Board of directors are increasingly involved because cyber incidents now impact revenue, litigation exposure, brand trust, shareholder confidence, regulatory risk, and operational continuity. Cybersecurity is no longer isolated within IT. It is now enterprise-wide governance issue. We can move to the next slide. So this is why it is very important to speak about all the adversarial AI risks and challenges. As I mentioned, all these attacks are very prevalent within an organization. So we have poison training data, evasion attack, as I mentioned, deep fake and mask attacks. Data poisoning is a great issue, evasion attacks, and model extraction. So how to counter all these is definitely to incorporate AI governance frameworks within your cybersecurity. So as I mentioned, NIST AI Risk Management Framework, which provides a structured approach to identify, measure, manage AI risks, including trustworthiness, fairness, and security. We have the ISO 42001, the international standard for artificial intelligence management system, similar to the previous ISO 27001, but that focuses on AI. The EU AI Act, which is the risk-based regulation that classifies AI systems. So for high risk in security context and mandates transparency, accountability, and human oversight. One that I like to use is the MITRE Atlas, which is the adversarial threat landscape for artificial intelligence systems, specifically designed for understanding and mitigating adversarial attacks like these on AI systems. So a practical implementation would be to establish an AI governance committee, which is cross-functional. So you have security, legal, ethics, and business. So to conduct regular adversarial red teaming, as I mentioned, and model stress testing. Implement continuous monitoring, explainability tools, and human override mechanisms. Maintain audit trails and clear accountability for AI-driven decisions. So the organizations that will lead in the AI era are those that treat governance not as a compliance burden, but as a competitive advantage and trust multiplier. So how do we turn this into practice? We can move to the next slide. So as we end, we assess our current capabilities and data quality and team skills. You have to assess all this as one. Integrate AI into your existing CM, SOAR, and threat intelligence platform. Train both models on your environment and people on new workflows. Measure success with clear KPIs like false positive reduction and mean time response. Mature organizations achieve 70 to 90% reduction in manual triage, allowing analysts to focus on proactive threat hunting instead of alert fatigue. In 2026, the best cybersecurity leaders are not those with the most advanced AI. They are those who best combine powerful technology with human wisdom, ethics, and strategic wisdom. So here are the 5 strategic takeaways from today. We have evolution. We have permanently moved from reactive to predictive security. Predictive mindset, where we build systems that anticipate threat rather than just responding. Human plus AI balance. Success lies in augmented intelligence, human wisdom guiding machine precision. AI governance, as you know, is essential. Adopt frameworks, implement strong ethical guardrails, red teaming, and accountability structures. Strategic leadership. The best cybersecurity leaders combine powerful technology with human ethic and strategic foresight. So in the age of AI-driven security, governance is what separates responsible innovation from dangerous experimentation. So some practical steps that I'd like to share with you in AI governance would be, again, number one, to establish leadership and accountability. So that's where that cross-functional AI governance committee, you assign clear ownership and reporting lines to the board. You create an AI inventory. So catalog all your AI systems, models, data sources, vendors, third parties used in your CTI operation. Include shadow AI that departments may be using without approval. Define policies and risk classification. So classify your AI use case by risk level, low, medium, high, and establish policies for data privacy, bias mitigation, explainability, and ethical use. You implement those controls and testing. So as you conduct regular adversarial red team using MITRE Atlas, apply OWASP recommendations, and integrate continuous monitoring for model drift and performance. And you definitely also have to embed governance into operations. Make governance part of your assess, integrate, train, measure cycle. Require human oversight for high-risk decision and maintain audit trails. So, as I mentioned, monitor, measure, and improve. So define KPIs, whether it's for false positive reduction, incident response time, governance compliance rate, and conduct periodic audits and training. Treat governance not just as a compliance checkbox, but as a strategic enabler. Organizations that do this well reduce their risk, accelerate their response AI adoption, and earn greater trust from customers, regulators, and partners. So, as we conclude today, I want to leave you with one final thought. The future of cybersecurity will be won solely through technology. It will be won through strategic resilience, intelligence governance, human adaptability, operational maturity, ethical leadership, and trust preservation. Artificial intelligence will fundamentally reshape threat intelligence, incident response, fraud detection, governance, identity security, and operational resilience. But technology alone will never secure the future. The organizations that will lead the next decade are those capable of combining that human wisdom, operational resilience, and intelligence automation. Because ultimately, cybersecurity is not simply about protecting systems. It's about protecting trust, continuity, stability, institutions, economies, and people. So thank you sincerely for your time, your attention, and engagement today. I truly appreciate the opportunity to share these perspectives with you and look forward to discussions and questions. CTI gives insight on all imminent threats. So CTI is a big word, cyber threat intelligence. So of course, it evolves. CTI is no longer old school. It is up to date. So being up to date with all the threat intelligence, which is, like I had mentioned, could be feeds from the dark web, is what we call adversarial threat intelligence, is ingesting what threat actors do, learning their playbooks, and that's how we evolve in CTI. CTI is not static. It really is dynamic in time, and it ingests the information and evolves with all the imminent threats. So it's not something that will lag behind. So as you analyze cyber threat intelligence, you are analyzing the latest and imminent threats and playbooks that adversarial activities showcase. Well, like I had mentioned during the talk many times, there is the MITRE, the NIST, and the ISO frameworks. Those are great to incorporate. They're great basics. Of course, it definitely depends on personalizing all these frameworks to your infrastructure and organization. And of course, hardening these models to make sure that they are securely ingesting the information and that there are ethical guardrails. Different countries have different ethical guardrails, so it really depends on your infrastructure. But this is a good basis, as I mentioned in the talk today. You're right, it possibly can. However, this is why analysts have to use AI to definitely sharpen their skills. What happens is AI has a broad perspective and could ingest information at scale, information that oftentimes analysts might not possess. This is why it is very important to learn as much as you can as an individual in this in this field. The more you know, the less you fear. I say that in all my talks, and this ties in to great with all these certifications at EC Council. There's no reason to be behind AI. You can learn, use AI as an intelligence partner. The more you know, the quicker you'll be. So of course, sharpening your own personal toolkit is the best recommendation. So continuous learning, learn through adversarial playbooks, and definitely certifications are number one. The more you know, the faster you will be. Yes, I do. The human in the loop is absolutely necessary to elevate the response. As we know, AI can be a great amplifier to either identifying threats rapidly and at scale, ingesting the information that humans would get fatigued into doing. However, the human in the loop is always important. The analyst has that capability of analyzing a situation, putting it in context that sometimes AI lacks. Therefore, together, the SOC analyst will no longer be the old school SOC analyst. It will be a SOC analyst with greater performance, because the analyst is combining large-scale information and will be doing its job better, faster, and will outperform just AI on its own. Network issues, and the threats are continuous. So it is essential to use AI, especially also within the insider threat, where behavior analytics is very important. So absolutely, AI has greatly reduced a false positive by ingesting all the experiences, all the information, all the CTI feeds. So it has not replaced necessarily analyst-driven investigations. It has just amplifying to make it more efficient, where the human can concentrate on the important part of the investigation instead of it being overwhelmed. So it has reduced the time that it takes to react and respond to incidences.
Thank you for answering that question. Next question to you is, as AI generates increasingly large volume,
I have to say yes. because I do believe that where AI is going towards autonomous decision-making, autonomous learning systems as well. Thankfully, the good side has been in AI longer than the bad guys. The attackers, however, are financially motivated. As I always said, cybercrime is the third largest economy. If we look at GDP, cybercrime is well organized and well funded. Therefore, they are using AI rapidly and at scale, especially through polymorphic malware, and definitely they personalize their AI to whatever infrastructure that you may have. So it is an arms race. However, we have great tools that can definitely slow down, identify, and help in the sort of defense and hardening of systems. So if you are not employing these, you will definitely get left behind and be compromised, because threat intelligence and adversarial intelligence are using even these autonomous systems. So it definitely is, cat and mouse game. However, that's why it is so important to actually leverage the AI within our SOC centers and behavior analytics, because we are moving forward constantly. Well, I think it's definitely a combination. I can't say that it's just a perfect scenario where you have reactive defense putting out all the fires. It doesn't quite work like that, because compromises come from within, mostly insider threats, initial access brokers. It would definitely be an ideal world if we could just deploy AI within our organizations and call it a day. Unfortunately, threats don't operate like that. They're multifaceted. So we have social engineering tactics, those initial access brokers, which unfortunately are credential thefts that come from within, or somebody who sort of facilitates initial access. So if those that have heard my ransomware talks understand that there's sort of a process in all of the deployment of a ransomware attack or a cyber attack. So it's not, AI will not just, stop all these and we call it a day. You need a good combination of the analysts, of red teamers. So it's a whole ecosystem that you have to build. It's not just sort of a successful integration. It really is an ecosystem of components. So we have the human analysts, we have the red teamers, we have the SOC, we have the AI automations, the EDRs. It is finding a good balance to build this ecosystem. I will repeat what I just said. It is an ecosystem. It's not just AI-driven security environment. It's an ecosystem of all these components, because you also have to have accountability. Something goes wrong, your AI does not take accountability. It is your C-suite that take accountability. There are many components. If you've ever underwent a cyber attack, you know that there are many stakeholders in the process. So it is really, I try not to look at it as just a model or an environment, but an ecosystem of multiple stakeholders. So when you keep that into account, you don't just have a narrow perspective of what AI and AI implementation means to you. It really is combining all the elements necessary to harden your system adequately. You can have the best AI tools, and it is that physical security gap that lets in a threat actor. It could be a vulnerability that was not integrated in your AI telemetry. So once you have an ecosystem in place, there are less gaps in your infrastructure security. That is extremely hard. Unfortunately, legacy infrastructures, which oftentimes are industrial control systems, do have difficulty and very hard to integrate AI capabilities within that. When you segregate and segment these, industrial control systems mostly, or AI, or legacy systems, as you segment that, you can definitely create its own little ecosystem of protection, but it is very, very difficult to have visibility on these systems that run legacy infrastructure, and threat actors definitely know this. Unfortunately, the risk will always be associated. You cannot mitigate completely the risk of these legacy infrastructures. So unfortunately, the only thing that you can do to protect these sort of legacy systems is to build your own sort of segregated control systems around it. There are many, many ways that you can do so and air gap them. However, it is very hard if you're running any kind of legacy system within your infrastructure. It will be an open door. It would be easy for me to say there is a solution. However, legacy equals higher risk. I absolutely agree that governments do not spend enough on security and security infrastructures within their organizations. It is very hard to solve a problem when you don't invest in it. So of course, investing in the right type of technology for detection, sophisticated detection, as well as also sometimes, having that two-factor authentication. And when I talk about two-factor, it's not the typical 2FA, it's the diligence of having a human in the loop. It's actually going through humans as well as the technology of multi-factor authentication. Of course, if I can solve that problem, I wish I could. Unfortunately, it has become a major problem with the technology in deepfake, where we definitely have to look at and use AI for behavior analytics, properly, definitely training people. You can definitely detect it because the natural language of AI is not perfect. So there are different detection systems, different honeypots that you can also build within your organization and to test these infrastructures. But again, it is very hard if governments do not deploy the right funds and commission the right work. That's also, they can, often invest in the wrong type of tools. So that's a very tough question that even I cannot solve. Thank you, everybody, for your continuous interest in this field. And like I mentioned, your best success is learning as much as you can about your adversaries and threat actors. And by doing so is definitely getting certifications or listening to webinars and getting as much insight as you can into this field.